Hello lovely humans, and welcome back to my channel. I wanted to make a series called Living with blank. And so essentially living with, for me, anxiety, depression, and an eating disorder, and then maybe invite some lovely humans on to talk about some of the things that they have to live with and how they deal with those things. And I might expand out to like living with acne, because I also have experiences with that. I'm thinking that I would like to make a series on that because I find that it might be very helpful to a lot of people. I read a lot that people are like, you should keep your problems to yourself and you should keep quiet about them. You don't want people to know your weaknesses. But I don't find those things to be weaknesses. I think the fact that you want to hide them or somebody wants to hide them is what makes it deemed a weakness. It's what makes that stereotype and that stigma that anxiety is a weakness. I, again, have anxiety. I have mentioned that in one of my first videos, and I have struggled with anxiety probably, like I was saying, since I was born. Anxiety is when the fight or flight system kicks in when it shouldn't be kicking in. People with anxiety, their fight or flight system kicks on at random times or kicks on about things that some other people's don't. So some people might not have worked during this COVID crisis and not be worried about money and just chilling. They're just chilling, having a good time. But people with anxiety, their fight or flight mode might have kicked on when they just thought money and security, and literally their fight or flight mode goes, adrenaline courses through their veins, and it is hard for them to focus or concentrate on anything else aside from what is presenting them with anxiety. And that's how it is for me when I get into an anxious state. My body's in this fight or flight mode where it's like, you've got to fight what's going on or you've got to flee from it. And generally I choose to flee, and some of the ways that I flee is like take naps. Some of the more effective coping mechanisms that I've used to flee are like work out, but then you can also choose to fight it too. And the ways that I choose to fight it are by telling the thought that it doesn't control me, by trying to stop the thought, by trying to rationalize the thought. But until you know that that's how anxiety manifests itself, and until you believe that you can overcome it, it's really hard. And so you just kind of sit in this limbo of, I'm going crazy, my mind is going 100 miles an hour. And that's how I was up until like 6 months ago. I just thought, I have anxiety. When this happens, I become overwhelmed and I can't do anything about it. I'm stuck in this system. My brain is just this way. I think like my OCD enhances my anxiety. I don't really have like specific phobias. A lot of people with anxiety have like specific phobias, so they might fear like going outside, like an agoraphobic, or an arachnophobic is someone that fears spiders. I don't have specific fears. I just fear, and maybe this is a specific fear, but I just fear the loss of money, what might happen in the future, any unknowns. So I think that's a big problem with us humans, especially in this society, is what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen 5 days from now, how about in 10 years? And so that's why I have found it really important for me to start living in the present and trying to just deal with like the present moment as opposed to thinking about even what's going to be happening tonight, because that tends to bring me anxiety. Whenever I'm feeling anxious, sometimes it can come out of nowhere. So I can be having a really good day and then I have a thought. The thought sends me into like this thought spiral, and so it goes from, oh, you have to pay rent, to, oh my gosh, you're gonna go broke. And so it's a really like irrational thought pattern because I don't know how I got from point A to point AAA and skipped the whole alphabet twice over in between. But that's what happens in my brain sometimes. Along with anxiety, I get sometimes panic attacks. I'm happy to report I haven't had one in probably 2 years. When my panic attacks come about, it's usually like while I'm taking a really hard test or while I'm dealing with a really hard life situation. And essentially what will happen is I'll feel like the whole world is on fast forward, but I'm on pause. So it's really hard to describe, but I get a really bad headache and it feels like the whole world is moving at 300 miles an hour, but I'm only going at 0.2 miles an hour, and I'm not being able to keep up with been working on my anxiety a lot. Anxiety is not something where it will just go away if you don't do anything about it. You have to actively take steps and like work on it and seek help, or maybe go on medication to help handle your anxiety. And I'm also not afraid to tell y'all that I do take medication, because I want you guys to feel like you're not alone, like this isn't a bad thing. I didn't just naturally start saying, I'm gonna rationalize these thoughts, because back when I had them, I'd be like, nope, they're irrational, there's nothing I can do about them. But through therapy, through medication, through self-help books, through meditation and mindfulness practice, through exercise, and all sorts of beautiful, good, positive things for the mind, I've been able to slow down that train of thought, slow down that fight or flight system that might come about, and realize when it might be starting. So a lot of my insecurities are based in like money, or I have like social insecurities, like I have like social anxiety. And so in the past, I just wouldn't do social things, and now I throw myself into that social situation. I say, you're gonna do it, you're gonna go hang out with these people. You might be scared as hell, but once you get there, it won't be that bad. As someone with anxiety, I sometimes overreact to simple situations, and sometimes I don't react super well to other people's anxiety because it kicks up my anxiety. But because I'm being more mindful, I'm noticing, oh, somebody's getting anxious, that's kicking up my anxiety. And my gut reaction is to go to fix their problem. And I'm like, whoa, 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 Alyssa, you don't need to fix their problem. You don't have to handle their anxiety, let them handle it. You can just be there as a support system, but their anxiety doesn't have to make you anxious. Traditionally, prior to that, I would just let other people's anxiety overwhelm me also. And maybe that's my empathetic being, maybe that's part of anxiety, but I just let that happen, and it had more negative effects than positive ones. And so I'm really working on a lot of those things, and I think I'm doing really well, in my opinion. I mean, there's always room for growth. I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. I can stop myself before I spiral. I can do a lot of positive things to help me not have to deal with the anxiety in such a high level that it was before. So if you have anxiety, you are not alone, my friend. There are tons of people with anxiety. Anxiety is actually super common. It is like the most common disorder in America, and I think that has a lot to do with our society, but I'm not going to sit here and preach about that. I just wanted to talk to you about my own anxiety and how I dealt with it and what it's like to live with anxiety. Living with anxiety often means you don't do things you want to do because you're afraid of the outcomes that could possibly happen. That comes about in a lot of ways, whether that means intimacy with people, going out with friends, hanging out with family members, doing like work or schoolwork. Anxiety can halt you from doing those things because you're thinking about all the things that can go wrong if you do something or if you choose not to do something. And so that's kind of what's happened to me historically in my life. So I'm working on just pushing through. Similar to the way of last video, I told y'all that I'm insecure about my face, like my acne and my hair. And so instead of doing my hair and putting a bunch of makeup on my face, I'm just pushing through and living as I am and just trying to accept the person within, the beautiful person within. And that sometimes presents a little bit of anxiety or worry, and then I just push through. And I found that to be a really effective, helpful strategy. Anxiety presents a lot of positive attributes to people and helps them be who they are. But I think that when you get so anxious, or me, when I get so anxious over something so small and I can't think about anything but that causes me a lot of angst, and that doesn't make me happy, and that doesn't make me feel like the best version of myself. So it's just me kind of working through, A, is this like anxiety or is this just worry? I know now. And B, if I'm starting to spiral, or if I'm starting to feel like the fight or flight system want to kick in, the limbic system of my brain want to pop on, I will try to halt that, or I'll try to rationalize my thoughts, which often turn irrational. And so it's just a lot of working through focusing on those thoughts, because I used to be anxious and not even know I was anxious. And now I'm like, whoa, I can feel myself maybe getting anxious, or hey, this is something that might make me anxious, which is something I've never been able to do before. And I feel like it's okay. Like, I'm 23 years old and I'm just now doing those things. Everybody learns at a different time. And I'm making it sound easy. It's not easy. Anxiety is not a death sentence. Anxiety is something that I have, that I'm working on, but it also helps me be a good employee. It is a part of me, but it does not define me, and I can overcome it and work to eliminate it to the best of my ability. But sometimes it's okay to be anxious. Like, if a gun's to your face and your fight or flight system kicks on, that's probably a good idea. So I don't want to lose it 100%, just maybe like 97% or something. And it is doable. So if you have anxiety, feel free to comment below some of the things that you find helpful to reduce your anxiety. And feel free to give me any sources that you may have used that have helped you get through and challenge those anxious thoughts and that limbic system kicking in type of behavior. I don't wish anxiety on anyone, but to those of you who have it, you are not alone, you are not broken, you are perfect. May you all be safe, may you all be well, may you all be happy, and may you all be at peace. Bye.